Hi guys, it's Aura. I am back once again. This is for my month 2 checkup. Check-in checkup, I guess. Um, Not as much to report, really. Like, same. Like, still not as much to report. I also think... I was also thinking, because I don't have a lot to talk about, as far as, like, my checkup stuff, I thought I'd maybe talk a bit about like other stuff that's going on that's kind of related, right? Um, so one thing that's different from last month um, is that my breasts are really starting to grow. Not like super super fast, but there's enough that like I can wear a bra, which is honestly like super exciting. um, like growing a chest is like one of the things that I've been really looking forward to. It's like it's still small. I still have a small chest. Like a lot of this is the padding in this bralette. um, but I did go bra shopping with my best friend a few weeks ago. Got my first like couple bras. And this one's my favorite, honestly. Um, but yeah, so breast growth is really the big difference. Um, I'm not noticing as many like crazy hormonal days. Um, but I think that'll change when I go to my next appointment, which is going to be scheduled for later this month. Will be my next appointment, and hopefully that means that I'll be able to increase my dosage of estrogen, um, which is super exciting because the more estrogen means the more changes I'm going to see. Facial hair hasn't really changed. I think, like I think I said in my first video, like that's one of the first things I noticed is that my facial hair started growing in slower and it's a bit softer and finer. So I'm hoping that with more estrogen, that'll increase a little bit. But where I'm taking low doses of testosterone blockers, my facial hair isn't going to change nearly as much as somebody who was on like higher dose of T blockers. The reason that I'm not doing the high dose T blockers, and that's because for right now anyway, and where I'm at, and sort of for the foreseeable future, is that I don't plan on having bottom surgery. Um, so what that means is that I don't plan on having gender corrective surgery. So I plan on keeping the genitals I was born with, meaning that I have a penis. I plan on keeping that. And because I don't have any dysphoria around it. And that's actually part of the reason why it took me so long. Like I'm 27. Like it took me so long to realize that I was trans is because I don't have dysphoria around my genitals or around sex. And that's usually like sort of the first indicator, right? Like you look between your legs and you're like, that's incorrect. I didn't really have that. And for me, my identity as a woman and my womanhood and my femininity aren't tied to my genitals. I don't think there's any loss in validity for a woman, especially for trans women that choose not to have bottom surgery for whatever reason, or women that choose to keep their penis and keep it functioning, like I'm doing. I don't think that makes us any less of women. But I am going to be doing higher doses of estrogen over time. And I don't know if we'll raise the T blockers or not. I think that's going to depend on how the body changes go. Right? And as I continue talking to the nurse practitioner that I'm working with for my hormone replacement therapy, continue to talk to her and let her know how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. If I want to change something, as far as like dosages, if there's a certain look or a certain change that I want, so we can talk about changing dosages of things. And like one of the things I want to talk to her about is once my breasts have grown in as much as they're going to grow naturally, right? Is talking about breast augmentation. I don't want a super big chest. That's not really an aesthetic that I want. But if I do decide, if my chest isn't big enough on its own for me, and I choose to get it done, I'd prefer to get a fat graft, which is where they'll take fat from somewhere else on my body and put it in my breasts. And my reason for that is like twofold. One, it looks more natural. And B, if I do like silicone or saline or, the regular sort of like fake titty implants, I will eventually have to get them redone, like every 10 or 15 years, to keep the same exact shape and fullness that they'll have from the initial implant. And that's just a lot of trauma on my body, and that's not what I want to do. So I'd rather do it once, have it be a fat graft, have it be something natural looking, and go on from there. That's my and this is again like just from very little knowledge, so I could be completely wrong. The fat graft could do something completely different. I haven't done a whole lot of research. I want to ask her about it. I'm also going to ask about. I think I'm going to talk to her about like name change and gender marker on my license. From what a friend of mine has told me, that I can get my gender on my license changed like that. I don't have to go through a lot of rigmarole. It's just a fee. But name change, you have to go through a little more. And my nurse had told me that she can help me from the clinic. Like, the clinic has all the paperwork and stuff that I need for any of that kind of stuff. Because I knew I wanted to wait to have my legal name change until after I started hormones. And I didn't think it would bother me at first, but it's getting really bothersome to continually see my dead name come up at work. Because even though like employees and management and stuff use my preferred name, because my name hasn't been changed legally yet, like pay stubs and like my name in our computer system and everything is still my old name. And like I don't have like shame or anything. I'm not mad about my old name, but it's not who I am anymore. So it's just kind of annoying to keep seeing it. And like I work in a warehouse, I work in a food distribution warehouse, and there are times where I have to go into selection, which is, selecting product to send out. And we use headsets. So we talk to these headsets and they tell us, what we're picking, where we're going, and how many to pick and all that stuff. And when you first sign in, we have an employee number that we use. And when you first sign in, the headset reads the number back to you and says, employee name XYZ. So anytime I go to select, I have this computer dead naming me. And I know it's a computer, but still it's kind of that reminder of like, hey, bam. And that's just not anything fun to deal with. But yeah, so that's another thing I want to do. I've been back in the dating game for a while. Even before I actually came out as trans, I was sort of trying to do the dating thing. And it kind of shocks me, it shocks me how much has changed and how it's different at the same time with dating as a trans woman versus as a gay man. The similarities are really simple. Like, it's just men are dicks. And, that's nothing new. A lot of guys sending you dick pics that you don't want. Like, everybody goes through this. Like, every girl knows this horror story of, like, oh, great, I have a message. Do I get to open it and see a penis? Yay. And, like, let's be real. The guys that send dick pics, they're never good. Right? Like, they're never a dick that they should be showing off. Right? But I've been single for a little over 2 years now, and it's lonely for someone like me. I really enjoy being in a relationship. I like being in a relationship, but I'm also not one of those people that will just hop into any relationship just so I'm not alone. I've been doing a lot of, especially now that I'm transitioning, I've been trying to do a lot of, I don't want to say soul searching and sound ridiculous, but, I've been doing a lot of, internal work, right? Doing a lot of shadow work and things like that, and sort of trying to learn about myself more and change toxic behaviors and things like that. Mostly because I don't want a repeat of my past relationships. I don't want to be in a relationship that's unhealthy again. You know, I don't want to be with somebody who's going to leave me after 2 years because they're so unhealthy and toxic for themselves that they don't want to be with me. You know, I want to be with somebody that is worth my time and I'm worth theirs. The biggest problem that I run into, and I think a lot of trans girls are into this, I don't really have any trans girlfriends. All of my friends are trans men, and from what they've told me, they go through similar things too. But there's this big fetish for trans women, particularly trans women who decide to not have bottom surgery. And, you know, a lot of it's because of porn. And I have nothing against porn. I think porn's perfectly fine in theory. It's just there's a lot of shitty stuff that sort of revolves around that. And one of these things is that, you know, men who fetishize trans women, fetishizing a person is gross in a multitude of ways, right? But, like, they expect, like, I've run into this thing where, like, that cisgendered men seems to think trans women are all this very specific type of woman, and that's, not true of anybody. Like, two cisgendered women, are exactly the same, so why should two trans women expect it to be exactly the same? And then, like I said, it's guys who just want sex. And there's nothing wrong with just wanting sex and just wanting something casual and, you know, NSA or whatever the fuck people use. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not that type of person, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's not a judgmental call or anything like that. But I catch feelings, especially when sex becomes involved. Sex for me is something very intimate. And, I mean, obviously it's intimate, but it's very intimate and it's very connective for me. And not that I can't just enjoy sex just to enjoy sex. Like, everybody loves a good orgasm, right? I almost said I'm going to get demonetized, but I'm not monetized anyway. I watch a lot of YouTube. Other people on YouTube. But for me, I'd rather be having sex with somebody that I'm in a committed relationship with. That's just what I want. And there's so many men that hit me up on dating websites, and it just proves that nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads profiles anymore because, you know, I get guys that are coming out here and be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And even if they're super polite, they're just looking for sex. And I'm like, okay, it says, like, in 3 different places on my dating profile that I'm not looking for hookups. I'm not looking for NSA. I'm not looking for casual. I want commitment. And, you know, sometimes, you know, they're good about it. They're like, oh, okay. They're like, thank you for being honest and upfront. Great. You know, good luck. And that's fine. And then other times, you know, guys will freak out and get really mean and cruel. And then there are other times, and these are the ones that I hate the most, is the guys that will, like, lie and sort of say, oh yeah, no, that's what I'm looking for too. And then the relation keeps going towards sex and towards sex and towards sex. And it's very clear, even if they don't say that that's their primary goal. And it just pisses me off, because it's like, can you just be upfront? Because lying to me and trying to trick me, insults my intelligence, which I pride myself on being an intelligent person. So, first of all, fuck you for that. And second of all, that's just, dishonesty is just, there's no point to it. Dishonesty never wins out, right? So dating is really hard. And then this sort of other thing that I think only really trans people can understand is, you know, I have developed, you know, like, crushes and things like that on some of my guy friends, especially guy friends at work. And after I came out, there was this voice in my head that's like, oh, hey, they know you're a girl now, so that changes everything. You know, now, you know, maybe they'll, you know, be interested. And so I got kind of, and I remember feeling this, and I remember immediately shutting myself down, like, a particular moment when this happened. And a couple months after I came out, and, like, my friends at work were getting used to using the new name and new pronouns, and the sort of initial hubbub of it died down, and I was like, oh, and I had a moment with a friend of mine, this sort of, like, flirty moment, and I was like, oh, hey, maybe this can finally be reciprocated, blah, blah, blah. And then I immediately shut myself down because I'm like, no. These people have known me as a gay man for 2 years, because that's about how long I've been with this company. Almost 3. It'll be 3 years this coming May that I've worked for this company. So, and it's not to say that they're not, that they're doing, that they're like refusing to accept me as a woman on purpose. It's just there's going to be this voice in the back of their mind like, hey, she was born male. Like, she was assigned male at birth. And, I'm honest and open about what I plan on doing my transition. Like, it's like, hey, I don't plan on getting bottom surgery. I have a penis and I'm going to keep it that way. And, like, I'm honest with people like that. I don't mind answering questions about my transition at all, as long as people aren't rude. So, all of my friends know that I plan on keeping my penis and that's not changing. And that's a big thing for a lot of men, especially like cisgendered men who identify as straight. Like, there's a lot of them that, even though they understand that I'm trans, they understand that I'm a woman, and they accept that, and they've accepted me into their lives as a woman, that a penis is still something that they're not going to be attracted to, and that's perfectly valid. I don't think it's necessarily wrong that they don't want a romantic or sexual relationship with a trans woman if she has a penis, because, like, and not that sex and genitals are not that I think they're defining me by my genitalia necessarily. They're not like, oh, well, you're still a man because you have a penis. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, like, I've only been with cisgendered men, and I know I'm attracted to cisgendered men because I like having sex with somebody with a penis. But I also know that I don't think I would ever be attracted to another trans woman who had a penis, because, it's not just that, right? Like, it's not just genitals, it's also the person. But the two interplay in each other with sexual attraction and romantic attraction. Like, these things are things they're aspects of a person that we consider when we consider dating people. And like I said, for a lot of cisgendered straight men, that's kind of a deal breaker. Obviously, there are cisgendered straight men that are really attracted to trans women. There are men that would prefer a trans woman with a penis, and it's not in a creepy way. It's just they find that attractive in a woman. I don't know any. And for me personally, I'd still rather date. I've always dated men that are either identify as like bisexual or pansexual or somewhere in the sort of queer spectrum. Even when I was living as a gay man, like, those are always the men that I was drawn to, and I think it's because even when I was presenting as male, I was always very feminine, and I was playing with gender expression and androgyny since high school. So I've always been much more feminine, and I found that men who identified as either bisexual or queer or pansexual, something like that, were attracted to me regardless. That they could be attracted to me as a boy, right, with quotes, but still be attracted to the femininity in me. And that was hard with men that strictly identified as being gay, because they were attracted to masculinity. They were attracted to men. And I'm the same way. Like, I really like stereotypically, like, masculine men. I hate the term straight acting, but those were the kinds of queer men that I was attracted to. And I'm still attracted to men like that. I love masculinity. I think it's just like an opposites attract thing. But dating is just hard, especially, like, I'm not social. I'm not like a social butterfly, as you would say. I don't go out, and I don't like going to bars and clubs and things like that. First of all, I live in Maine, so it's not like there's many good clubs anyway. But I go to clubs once in a great while with friends, but I don't branch out to talk to people except for the people that I'm with, right? So online dating is really the only way that I feel that I have to meet people, to meet guys, and it's just awful. Half the time, half the time, they're just guys looking to get their dick wet, and they treat women terribly because they feel like they can, right? Or, it's guys that, like I said, lie and are sort of like, oh yeah, I'm totally in a relationship, but can I see your tits? Or there are men that don't read my profile and don't realize that I'm trans, which I guess means I can pass in a photo. So, like, yay, that's nice, right? They're just like, oh, wait, what is... I had to explain what transgender meant a couple weeks ago to a man. I was like, it's 2019, and I just had to explain what transgender was? I never got a response after I explained it. Shocking, right? So I don't know. Like, I'm starting to, like, lose faith that I'm ever gonna, like, find somebody again. Which I know is, like, really, like, pessimistic and really dark. But that's sort of where I'm at. I've just lost hope. So I don't... And, you know, I'm, because this will come up eventually, and I want to do videos on it, too, if I decide that YouTube is something I'm going to do. But I am a practicing witch. I am a pagan, as well. But I am a witch, and, you know, I've been doing, you know, spells and work to try to draw love to me and to help me find a new partner, and I'm not seeing results, and I think a lot of that has to do with because of the blocks that I have, because I've given up. I don't think I'm going to find anybody, so no matter what I'm putting out there, my own energy is going to affect that. So I don't know, but it's weird because, like, I have feelings for guy friends of mine. I don't have many guy friends, simply because every time I get guy friends, I seem to get crushes on them. You know, and they're all great friends, but, you know, they've been very clear that, like, you're just my friends. You know, I think if you're a woman, I think you're wonderful. I had a friend of mine tell me the other day, he's like, I feel really bad that I can't reciprocate your feelings because you're so sweet to me. He goes, you're sweet, you're wonderful, you're always there for me. He goes, I wish I could reciprocate the feelings, but I can't, and I kind of feel like a dick. And I'm like, and I felt bad. I was like, no, don't feel like that. That's not your fault. And I'm not holding it against you. But yeah, that's a lot of my sort of romantic life is when I am in relationships, they're toxic and terrible and traumatic, and I have issues now because of a lot of the relationships I've been in. It's either that or I'm developing feelings for people that are completely uninterested in me, which is also terrible. Don't do it. This turned into less of a 2-month checkup and more of a, this is where my life's at, but whatever. This is part of the, you know, dating and romance is part of the trans experience, and so I think it's perfectly fine. And obviously if this changes, while I'm doing these checkup videos, obviously I will inform people. I'll be like, oh, by the way, I met a boy. 9 times out of 10, though, when I set up a date with a guy, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna meet this day, this time, this place, blah blah blah, and then I don't hear from them ever again. I'm like, what is the point of going through all the time and energy and effort to plan a date with somebody if you're not even gonna show up, if you're not even gonna talk to the person after the date is set? I don't understand it. Men are confusing. Men, please explain your gender to me, because y'all are confusing as fuck. But, yeah, so I think that's everything I'm going to do for this video. I might do, like, a tiny check-in later this month if I go to my appointment and we talk about changing my dosages. I might do a tiny little update then. But, for now, I think I'm going to sign off. I'm finding that I'm really enjoying doing these, and I like being able to sort of, I like the idea of having something I can look back on and see what my first year of transition is like. Because like I said, I plan on doing this just for the first year, but make it longer. But I think it'll be really nice when I'm a year later to see where I started, to see where I am now, and sort of compare. But yeah. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next month.